Brittany Drexel disappeared on April 25th, 2009. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Brittany Drexel's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. A teenager from Rochester, New York, sneaks away for spring break without her parents' permission.
Brittany, she liked to play both of us. You know, if mom said no, dad said yes.
Being a 100-pound, pretty teenage girl, that's not an area where you want to be by yourself.
While walking back to her hotel, she suddenly vanishes.
I knew something was wrong. I knew that there was a problem of 30 minutes going by without talking to her.
Have recent problems at home pushed her to the breaking point?
That was a warning that I need help.
What or who could have led Brittany so far from home?
Where's my little girl? Is my little girl being tortured? Did my little girl get hurt?
I met Brittany, I believe I was 15, she was 14. We became best friends, got to know each other, and been so close ever since.
She used to like to joke around a lot, laugh. Just her smile just made you smile back.
She was such a fun-loving girl and just smiling all the time.
April 22nd, 2009. It's spring break for high school students in Rochester, New York, and with a long winter barely behind them, 17-year-old Brittany Drexel is ready for some warm sunshine. It's a long-standing rite of passage in the Rochester area for high school seniors to spend part of the week-long break in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Just kids, no parental supervision.
There was about 30 or 40 kids going down to Myrtle Beach, and it's kind of a tradition for them to go down there. It's just like any other tourist area. You got hotels, you got shops. Those kids are going down there, drinking, doing drugs, partying, going out to night spots, and laying out on the beach.
Brittany, a high school junior, is friendly with some older kids who ask her to join them for the trip down to Myrtle Beach.
She had asked me if she could go to Myrtle Beach, and I had told her no. And I also told her, you need to talk to your father. I know he wouldn't have allowed her to go, but, you know, she still needed to talk to both of us. And, you know, Brittany, she liked to play both of us. If mom said no, dad said yes.
Dawn and Chad Drexel have recently decided to divorce. Their separation has taken a toll on Brittany and her two siblings.
That Tuesday, Dawn called, 8-ish or something at night, said, your daughter's not listening to me. She's bringing up the spring break. She wants to go down.
According to Chad, Brittany had recently been sleeping late and skipping school. In his mind, it was no time for her to be going on vacation without parental supervision.
So I told her, Brittany, what's going on? Where are you telling your mother that you want to go to spring break? You're not going anywhere. Silence. She didn't say nothing. Do you understand me, Brittany? Yeah.
The next afternoon, Wednesday, the dispute continues. Brittany is so upset, she storms out of the house. She calls her boyfriend, John Greco, and asks him to pick her up. John, who has been dating Brittany on and off for over 2 years, knows how much Brittany wants to get away for spring break.
Her junior year was a tough year for her. She was dealing with her family being in a divorce. Any problem that me and her would have would escalate the anxiety that she was carrying.
Brittany's close friend Tara has seen how hard junior year has been for her classmate.
She just wanted to hang out with her friends, just not have to stay home. She wanted to go away for spring break. She wanted to just be able to have fun for a week outside of Rochester.
In the months before her disappearance, Brittany has had her share of problems. She overdosed twice on her mom's pain medication. Both times are after a major breakup with John. Brittany's father believes she was feeling the strain of her parents' divorce as well.
In my heart, I felt like this is all my fault because I left the house and now all these things are happening. I went straight to the hospital. They pumped her. She didn't take as many as everyone thought. But that was a warning that I need help.
I could remember the look on her face. Her face was just all red and she was just crying. Tears were just coming down her face, and I looked at her and I said, Britt, why would you do this? Why? Nothing in life is that bad to do this.
Brittany began seeing a counselor and eventually reconciled with John. This kind of troubling behavior was unusual for her. Brittany had been a carefree child. She talked about becoming a nurse and was also passionate about soccer.
She was just the fastest on that field, no matter what team she played. It's the one thing that every coach always said was, I've never seen a girl that fast.
Brittany, she's energetic, happy-go-lucky. She was the type of person that would walk into a room, and no matter if it was the most depressing day of the week, she would light up that room.
But Brittany's fun-loving spirit is dampened on Wednesday, April 22nd, when her mother refuses her request to go to Myrtle Beach for spring break. Brittany vents to her boyfriend, John, after leaving the house in a huff.
When Brittany had told her mom that she wanted to go to South Carolina, her mom, obviously being a parent, said, no way, you're not going to South Carolina. You're 17 years old. And Brittany retaliated. She got into a fight with her mom. Brittany gave me a call. I came and picked her up and took her to her friend's house.
Later that day, Brittany makes one last request to go to Myrtle Beach.
Well, she had to call and apologized how she acted that day. She says, Mom, can I go to Myrtle Beach? And I told her no. And she goes, why? And I said, Brittany, because first of all, I don't know the people that you're going with. I said, there's no parents. And I said, something's gonna happen. And I said, I don't want anything to happen to you.
Brittany then proposes a new idea for her spring break. She asks her mother if she can spend the rest of her vacation at a friend's house nearby. Her mother agrees. Brittany promises to stay in touch by cell phone over the next few days. But in reality, Brittany makes very different plans, which she shares with her boyfriend, John.
She said, you know, a bunch of my friends want me to go down to Myrtle Beach with them. And I told her, I think it's a good idea. I think you can get away from Rochester. I think it would do you good if you go down to South Carolina for 3 days. Because really, in my eyes, what was gonna happen in 3 days?
Coming up, Brittany's boyfriend's words come back to haunt him.
I knew something was wrong. I knew that there was a problem of 30 minutes going by without talking to her.
Days before 17-year-old Brittany Drexel disappears, she has an emotional fight with her mother, Dawn, who has refused to let her go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for spring break. Frustrated, Brittany asks to spend the rest of her vacation instead with a friend who lives nearby her home in Rochester, New York. Her mother agrees. But Brittany has no intention of staying in upstate New York. She decides to make the trip to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, over 14 hours and 6 states away. She visits her boyfriend, John, at work before leaving.
It's a difficult memory for me to think about because I had that running in the back of my head, just as everybody does when they're saying goodbye to somebody for a period of time. I think, what if this is the last time I see them? What if something happens? But then I pushed those thoughts to the side and thought, it's only 3 days.
Brittany leaves Rochester with 4 other friends Wednesday night, hoping to be at the beach by the next morning.
The people that she went down with, I thought were trusting people. I didn't know them personally. She did ask me to come, and I could not go because I had work.
Over the next few days, Brittany and John are in constant contact via cell phone, sometimes texting several times an hour. She tells him that she is staying at a hotel on the beach called the Bar Harbor Hotel.
While she was down there, her first few texts were, "This weather is incredible." I mean, there's palm trees. Being out by the ocean, it was incredible.
But it isn't only the soft sand and inviting water that entice Brittany and her friends. With an abundance of bars and clubs, the area is a paradise for high schoolers enjoying independence for the first time. While the drinking age is 21, many of the clubs allow kids as young as 17 to enter.
The bars and the clubs down in Myrtle Beach, it's more based around money. They can get tons of teenagers to come in, and if they turn the blind eye to the fact that they're 16, 17 years old, they're still gonna make the money.
Brittany takes full advantage of her spring break freedom. She tells her mom that she's watching movies at her friend's house in Rochester, while sharing with John that she is having an amazing vacation hundreds of miles away.
She was having a ton of fun. She was out having a good time, living the spring break life. She was with a bunch of her friends, having a good time.
But by the second day, all that changes. Brittany starts feeling alienated from her friends.
Brittany had told me that they were using a lot of drugs. She wasn't into the drug scene, and therefore she tried to exclude herself from that, and she tried doing things on her own. She walked to the restaurant by herself. She walked down to the beach by herself. Clearly, being in South Carolina, being a 100-pound, pretty teenage girl, that's not an area where you want to be by yourself.
Early Friday evening, Brittany runs into a male friend from Rochester. 20-year-old Peter Brozowitz works for several local Rochester nightclubs. He's staying with some friends at the Blue Water Resort in Myrtle Beach, just a mile away from Brittany's hotel.
Peter Brozowitz was a kid who I didn't know personally, but Brittany did. He was always out at the parties at the clubs, so we became acquaintances through just the parties and knowing the same people. I assumed, being a good friend to Brittany, that he would watch over her.
On Saturday afternoon, Brittany's mom and sister, thinking that Brittany is at her friend's house in Rochester, call to say that they just bought her a new pair of soccer cleats. They ask about her plans that day, now that the weather has suddenly shot up into the 80s, unusually warm for Rochester in April.
I asked her where she is, and she says I'm at the beach. Now, it was a decent day here in Rochester, and I thought she was at Charlotte Beach.
Charlotte Beach in Rochester is just 20 minutes from Brittany's house. Dawn still believes that Brittany is nearby and is being supervised by her friend's parents.
I had talked to her and also asked to talk to a parent. She had put someone on the phone, I don't know who that was, and said that it was okay for Brittany to stay there. And I asked Brittany what she had planned on doing later. And she said, well, we're gonna go over to my friend's house and we're just gonna watch movies and not do too much of anything.
Brittany tells her mom that she'll return home the next day and thanks her for letting her spend the past few days with her friends.
She goes, I'll see you tomorrow, and then I love you. And I said, okay, I love you too. And then we hung up.
a seemingly normal conversation will soon take on tragic significance. It becomes the last time Dawn talks to her daughter before she disappears. Meanwhile, Brittany decides to meet up with her friend Peter. Before she goes, she borrows a pair of shorts from one of her friends. At around 8 o'clock, Brittany texts John en route to meet Peter at the Blue Water Resort. She continues to report that she is having a miserable time and that she is looking forward to coming home the next day.
She hated being down there, and she didn't like the people she went down with.
Shortly after arriving at the Blue Water Resort, Brittany receives a text from her friend saying she wants her shorts back so she can wear them that night. Annoyed, Brittany tells Peter she has to walk back to her hotel, which is over a mile down the road. She texts John as she leaves.
And it was, I can't wait to come home. I can't wait to see you. I'm so angry at everybody down here. I said, I think that you should have a good time. Just try to relax. It's your last night. Try to enjoy it. You're down there anyways. You might as well try to enjoy it before you come home and get back to school.
Brittany and John text each other as she leaves the Blue Water Resort. But then, something strange happens. She stops responding to his messages.
I knew that something was up about 10 to 20 minutes later, but a half an hour later was when I really began to start freaking out. Me and Brittany talked every 10 minutes on the phone. I knew something was wrong. I knew that there was a problem of 30 minutes going by without talking to her.
An hour later, John is worried. He threatens to tell her mom the truth about where Brittany really is if she doesn't text him back.
I called Brittany, and there was no response. So I texted her, and I said, if she didn't get in contact with me, I was gonna call her mom. And I was gonna break the news to the family that she was down in South Carolina. A couple minutes went by, she didn't text me back, didn't call me back.
Meanwhile, Dawn Drexel, Brittany's mother, is just returning home after having dinner with a few friends when she gets the call from John.
Her mom said, I'm gonna kill her. Like, there's no way that she went behind my back and did this without letting me know about it. And she was initially very angry, as any parent would be if they found out their kid was 14 hours away.
It wasn't registering until it started to sink in and I was thinking about it. Well, my heart dropped. I mean, what do you mean you can't find my daughter? And I started freaking out.
As soon as Dawn gets off the phone with John, she desperately tries to get in touch with Brittany.
When we were first texting her and calling her that night that she went missing, it would keep ringing and ringing and ringing, and then it started just to go to voicemail.
When I finished up work, it was 11 o'clock at night, and I got in my car, and I headed right to Brittany's house. And I walked in the door, and the whole family was sitting at the table, and I sat down and started to explain what happened.
Dawn calls the Rochester police, but they can't do much from upstate New York. So John reaches out to a friend of Brittany's in North Carolina, who drives straight to Myrtle Beach to file a missing persons report with local police. Meanwhile, Brittany's family and friends continue trying to reach her by phone, but each call goes straight to voicemail. The next morning, Brittany's mom, boyfriend, grandparents, and 2 friends head down to Myrtle Beach to search for Brittany, while her father, Chad, looks after her siblings.
Here I am driving down to Myrtle Beach, and I am just beside myself, thinking, how could this happen to my daughter? Where is she? Am I gonna be able to find her?
Coming up, investigators get a break when they discover surveillance footage that could help them find the missing teen. 17-year-old Brittany Drexel has slipped off to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for spring break, unbeknownst to her parents. At about 9 p.m., Saturday, April 25th, she's walking to her hotel while texting her boyfriend John, when suddenly her texts stop. Brittany is not seen or heard from again. Myrtle Beach Police Lieutenant Joseph Kapp and Detective Vincent Dorio head the investigation. As police begin the search for Brittany, her mother, her boyfriend John, her grandparents, and 2 friends are still en route from Rochester, New York to Myrtle Beach.
Trip down to South Carolina, I don't think anybody slept. It was extremely difficult because we knew that we're going down there to search for Brittany missing. It almost was a step out of reality. It was almost like this couldn't be happening.
Brittany has been missing about 12 hours. Myrtle Beach police launch an intensive search, fanning out in all directions from the hotel where Brittany was last seen. They canvass beaches and local hotels, looking for possible leads. Police find the friends with whom Brittany traveled from Rochester. They tell detectives they haven't been able to reach her since she disappeared and have no idea where she could be. When Brittany's mother meets with Myrtle Beach investigators, they ask her about Brittany's home life.
They thought she ran away. And I know my daughter didn't run away. I mean, she was maybe 18. She felt like she was a grown-up. She was also looking at colleges and things like that.
No indication that she did a lot of drinking or anything of that nature while she was here.
Her brother and sister, she loved to death, and she would never leave them. Just up and leave them willingly.
The morning after Brittany's last contact with her boyfriend John, Myrtle Beach police are still hopeful this case will resolve quickly, like so many other spring break missing persons cases.
Especially with kids, they'll go and sit on the beach and talk. They lose track of time is generally what happens.
Detective Dorio and Lieutenant Kapp begin to work a lead. They learn that Peter Brosky, the young man Brittany went to see the night before, left town with his buddies at about 2 a.m. that morning, about 5 hours after Brittany vanished.
It appeared that they had left suddenly in the night. They had forgotten clothing and they didn't get a deposit. And these contributing factors appeared to be very, very suspicious.
As soon as Peter arrives back in Rochester, he is quick to acquire the representation of a criminal defense attorney. Investigators begin piecing together Brittany's last hours. On the way from her hotel to visit Peter and his friends at the Blue Water Resort, a traffic camera captures her walking and texting at about 8:15 p.m.
We do see her, she's walking alone and using her phone. And we verify that she was calling the people that she was going to visit to try and find the location of the motel.
According to Peter, Brittany left his room shortly after she arrived to go back to her hotel and return the pair of shorts to her friend. Detective Dorio checks the surveillance tapes of the Blue Water Resort. They verify Peter's story.
We get her going through the motel's front lobby doors, and then a short time later, exiting the motel and going northbound towards her motel.
Detective Dorio can now pinpoint the time Brittany left the Blue Water Resort, 8:48 p.m. Police estimate it should have taken Brittany about 15 minutes to reach the traffic camera on the return trip to her hotel.
Reviewing the tape on the traffic camera, we learned that Brittany never made it that far.
Somewhere between the Blue Water Resort and her own hotel, Brittany vanishes. Police continue to question Peter, the last known person to see Brittany Drexel. They're curious about his departure in the middle of the night, shortly after Brittany disappeared.
Peter totally cooperated with us. I mean, yes, he got an attorney, but he and his attorney were straightforward.
Peter tells them one of his friends was pressured by his mother to return to Rochester as soon as possible.
We followed up on all the information, what they told us they had done.
After investigating Peter's story, police find no evidence that he and his friends had anything to do with Brittany's disappearance. Unfortunately, investigators have no other leads on what may have happened to her, but they do obtain Brittany's cell phone records. What they find is not what they expect. The last known location of her cell phone is over an hour away in a very unwelcoming area. Coming up, is Brittany still alive?
It's the most horrific thing you would want to go through as a parent.
Get more Disappeared online at investigation.discovery.com. While Myrtle Beach police search the city for 17-year-old Brittany Drexel, Detective Vincent Dorio is investigating the last minutes before she disappears. On April 25th, 2009, what should have been the last night of her vacation, Brittany vanishes after visiting her friend Peter at the Blue Water Resort.
She was still in Myrtle Beach.
Graham Moore, a local reporter, has been tracking Brittany's case since her disappearance.
They were in the hotel room. I don't think she was there that long. She got a call from her friend saying, hey, can you bring me back my shorts? She left there, from what I understand. She was texting with her boyfriend.
The Blue Water's surveillance tapes show Brittany leaving at 8:48 p.m. But Brittany never appears on footage from a traffic camera along the way, returning to her hotel. Now, with her cell phone records in hand, detectives hope to learn what happened during those crucial few minutes.
At 8:58, she writes back to John, no, I'm staying in, packing, and going to sleep, probably. At that point, John asks, why babe, why boo?
According to Brittany's cell phone records, this exchange with John, her boyfriend back in Rochester, occurs 10 minutes after she leaves the Blue Water Resort. She is supposed to be walking back to her hotel, just over a mile away. But the records show that suddenly, all outbound activity from Brittany's phone stops after this text.
About 9:15, he starts writing back again, hey, why aren't you answering me? I'm concerned. At that point, that's when he starts text messaging her over and over. Where are you? You okay?
John texts some of the friends who traveled with Brittany to see if they can reach her, giving investigators their next lead.
And they start making calls, and that's how we're able to start tracking her as the phone is going southbound.
Anytime one of her friends called Brittany, her cell phone would ping or communicate with the nearest cell phone tower. This tells investigators the approximate location of Brittany's phone at that moment. Although she is supposed to be heading north towards her hotel, at 9:27 p.m., about 30 minutes after her last text, the data reveals that Brittany's phone is heading southbound on Route 17. Her phone is pinging cell towers in an area called Surfside Beach, almost 7 miles south of Myrtle Beach. It would take 2 hours to walk there and about 15 minutes by car.
The phone itself, because we're not sure if she was separated from the phone, was moving at a high enough rate of speed that it was in a vehicle.
Police aren't sure if the cell phone battery then dies or if it gets destroyed. But at 11:58 p.m., just 3 hours after Brittany's last text to John, her phone last pings tower number 332. It's located 2 counties and over 50 miles south of Myrtle Beach, near Georgetown County.
If you look at the timeline of the cell phone, made this 50-mile trek in a relatively short period of time. So it wasn't like it meandered down through the night. That cell phone made a beeline for Georgetown County.
The area is near the North Santee River, around the Pole Yard boat landing. It's an isolated, rural spot.
This right here is off the beaten path. There's nothing but country surrounding this area. The folks that would know it are fishermen or some of the locals from the town of Georgetown, maybe just across the river.
A 17-year-old from Rochester, New York is not going to end up at Pole Yard boat landing on a Saturday night during her spring break. It's a very rural part of the county. It's surrounded by water.
Myrtle Beach police launched their search here, in the area covered by cell phone tower number 332.
This right here is in the cell phone zone. It's about 4 miles wide, 5 miles deep. They staged here. The searchers then branched out to other likely zones.
The terrain in these parts is notoriously forbidding.
We have alligators in the river. There are wild hogs, plenty of snakes, lots of biting insects. It's not a very hospitable place for anybody to be at.
You can't imagine the conditions searchers had to go through. Flies the size of golf balls. Very hot, very humid, very thick brush. A lot of dangerous wildlife.
After investigators conduct an initial search and find no trace of Brittany, local police and other agencies join forces to expand the effort.
Because of the phone, it goes through Horry, Georgetown, and Charleston County. So we have 3 different large agencies working this together.
Georgetown and Charleston furnished their boats with their sonar, and we checked the rivers. Charleston County had their helicopter there.
They did a massive ground search. They were running their ATVs through there every 20 minutes to get the alligators to back off so the dogs could come through. They had 6 shooters with their dogs because of the boar. I mean, it was just very dangerous.
While investigators comb the area, Dawn and Brittany's other loved ones hold out hope for some sign of Brittany.
There's a lot of questions going through my mind. It's the most horrific thing you would want to go through as a parent.
It was very intense. There were long days. There was a lot of ground covered. There was a lot of hope in the beginning that something was going to be found. It was about a week long of just intense searching, hundreds of volunteers out there, looking for that cell phone, looking for any clue of Brittany.
Monica Kaysen, director of the Q Center for Missing Persons, a family advocacy group that assembles volunteer search parties, is called in to help.
We were going in the first 11 days that Brittany disappeared. We searched sunup to sundown every day. All of the probable areas that people enter, the probable areas someone could have pulled offside the road, dirt roads with nobody lives on them at all.
Authorities know that the treacherous wildlife gives Brittany a slim chance of survival.
The urgency was there to get her before the wild animals did.
You know, there's always going to be hope. But while we're doing these searches, we certainly had numerous cadaver dogs.
When they had been doing this search, they had told me, they said if she's in this area, she would have been ate within 6 hours. You know, and I felt like they're thinking she's not alive, which scared me even more. I mean, you become frantic. I mean, you never think of your child going before you do.
The search teams find no sign of Brittany. Investigators continue combing the area and looking for leads, while Brittany's family and friends return to Rochester.
Coming home without Brittany was very, very difficult. I came home. Her little brother, Camden, came over to my house, and he goes, "I thought you were bringing Britt home." And I just looked at him, and I was like, "I'm so sorry. She's not with me." her little brother and her little sister, asking me, where is she? Why isn't she with you? And being as young as they are, it's hard to tell them answers.
I came back home and I walked upstairs and I had her pictures up. I had her clothes folded on my bed. I had like all of her stuff still reminding me it's not a dream. It's not made up in my imagination. Brittany's really missing.
Where's my little girl? Is my little girl being tortured? Did my little girl get hurt and die? If that happened, how do I explain it to my little one? How do I do that? That Daddy can keep you safe from that. How do I do that? I just tell her that I will be here for you, that I'm not gonna leave any of you guys.
Coming up, the investigation into Brittany's disappearance seems completely stalled until 8 months after she goes missing, when a potential clue finally emerges.
A week-long search for missing spring breaker Brittany Drexel turned up a possible piece of evidence in her disappearance.
It has been close to 8 months since 17-year-old Brittany Drexel vanished while on spring break in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Police have no promising leads in the case. Finally, in mid-December, investigators get a tip. It prompts them to search an area just north of where they had previously traced Brittany's cell phone. They scour the banks of the Santee River, surrounded by swamps and alligators.
The Georgetown County had asked us to check out an area that was a tip called in. We went over there to check it out. During that search, we were notified that the sunglasses were found.
While combing the area, authorities get an intriguing lead. A pair of sunglasses that could be Brittany's is spotted on the muddy embankment of the Santee River.
On the second day of that search, a man and his wife were on a boat. They had docked along the riverbank there, went to collect some firewood and came across a pair of sunglasses. They had seen the night before on the news that searchers were out there looking for a missing girl, and they thought it was odd, the place that they found these sunglasses. They found these sunglasses on a pretty desolate part of the riverbank. Investigators were pretty hopeful when they found them.
Brittany's mom wants to believe that the glasses could be her daughter's.
I had seen what the sunglasses look like, and I know Brittany had gotten a pair for Easter.
But others are skeptical they belong to Brittany.
I don't recognize them. It doesn't mean that when she was down there, she didn't buy them.
It was months and months after her disappearance. So why all of a sudden are glasses showing up there that don't have all the mud, all the weathered activity on it, the leaves, the branches, all that? It could just be they had hikers and someone lost them out of their backpack.
Since the sunglasses turn up a few miles from where the teams have resumed searching, those close to Brittany's case question whether the appearance of this potential clue might be calculated.
Someone may have put them there that has been getting some heat from the authorities and wanted to try to bring the search elsewhere from this property or this area to this area now.
Were they meant to be found? I feel confident that, you know, if someone did put them there, that they wanted to be found.
Investigators send the glasses to forensics for testing.
They sent them off to see if they could collect DNA off of them to make any sort of match. And from what I've been told, there was no DNA on the glasses. Again, another dead end for Dawn Drexel and Brittany's family.
In early April, a few weeks before the one-year anniversary of Brittany's disappearance, police announced that they have identified 3 to 4 persons of interest in the case.
The people that we're looking at, I feel really good about. All of our little pieces of evidence, they haven't been tied in yet, but they're all pointing in the same direction, towards certain people.
Detectives will not reveal more information, yet they say they now believe this is no longer a missing persons case, but a homicide. However, Detective Dorio still needs more to file charges.
Just a matter of time now before everything gets put together and we can say, yes, here's a solid arrest.
While investigators continue pursuing the case, Dawn Drexel has her own theory and believes Brittany may have been abducted.
I think Brittany's still alive. I think somebody's holding her against her will. I've heard a lot about human trafficking. Anybody can be a trafficker. That person could be somebody that you meet and become friends with. It could be somebody that promises you, you know, a modeling career, or you can make this much money, or anything.
If you know Brittany, if you're close to Brittany, you gotta watch out for her. You cannot let her just walk around by herself because she thinks that nothing can hurt her. She's too trusting of people, and you need to watch out for her.
However, authorities are skeptical that this is a human trafficking case.
We've got no indication. We've had no history. Most of your human trafficking, they target victims where there's a language barrier, and generally where human trafficking takes place, it continues to take place. We've had nothing prior or since that would be an indicator.
Human trafficking in South Carolina is not a problem that I know about, at least. Being from South Carolina, you never hear about human trafficking.
We can't eliminate it, but it's certainly not at the forefront of our investigation.
In an effort to generate new leads in the investigation, police released to the media a new and important piece of evidence.
There is some new information in the disappearance of a New York teenager who vanished nearly a year ago on a spring.
A video of Brittany Drexel, shot just 24 hours before she disappeared.
Hey, Brett.
What?
A college student from the Midwest, who had also been vacationing in Myrtle Beach, shot this video on the night of Friday, April 24th, after befriending Brittany along Ocean Boulevard.
There were some kids that were antagonizing her because she was a really pretty girl. Some kids were yelling at her and antagonizing her, and so she asked some kid, you know, will you walk with me, so that they stop yelling towards me.
They talked and they went to her motel room, and he did a short video clip of her while they were talking. And it was confirmed that it was, in fact, Brittany.
Investigators verified that the student has an alibi and has no knowledge of Brittany's whereabouts.
Once he was aware that he had video, he and his family contacted us and relinquished the video to us.
Brittany Drexel has yet to be found.
The video receives national attention.
Now, never before seen images have surfaced from the night before she disappeared.
A boy she had met on spring break shot this cell phone video at a hotel.
Unfortunately, nothing emerges that enables police to make an arrest. Back in Rochester, Brittany's loved ones struggle to make some sense out of her disappearance. They try to move on with their lives while honoring Brittany.
At this point, I'm advocating for Brittany, but I'm also trying to get the awareness out to all these parents that think that this could never happen to their child. Teenagers, you know, they think they're invincible and that this could never happen, but these parents need to know that this happens all the time and have them be aware.
I am now studying criminal justice because I want to help find girls who are missing, and I want to be the person who is able to catch that person who has done it. And I'm going to be the best that I can be, so I can be that person that will give those families justice.
Brittany's family and friends do not give up hope that one day they will hear from
souls and wish her to come home. Obviously, it's my little girl, but this isn't about me. This is about her brother and her sister. They need her. We all need her, but they need her.
We need Brett back home. We really do. I just miss her a lot.
We don't know what happened when she walked out of that hotel and she walked up on that boulevard. Was somebody following her? Was somebody planning on harm my daughter? Just not knowing is the most horrible thing.
Brian Barton disappeared on Thursday, March 10th, 2005. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Brian Barton's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to him. Brian Barton unexpectedly quits his band, and now he has disappeared.
I thought he had set out to kill himself.
And recent events only heighten the mystery.
She came to him and asked him to join the battle of good and evil.
With each passing day, suspicion builds.
Someone in that band knows what happened, and they don't want to share it.
Did Brian Barton disappear to start a new life? Or was he the victim of foul play?
We don't know what happened. We just know we have our son missing, and it's just a tough life.
25-year-old Brian Barton has been playing guitar with his band called As Fate Would Have It for almost a year. Recently, things have started to take off.
I started to turn more into like a legit band, you know, and we started playing good shows.
In fact, the band has just won a local contest to perform at their biggest show ever, the Taste of Chaos Festival in Seattle.
Huge. I mean, talking like 6,000 people.
Brian went out and bought like brand new gear, like new amps, new pedals. He was totally stoked on it. He probably blew about, $2 or $3 grand on just pumping up his gear for this specific show.
Brian was very excited. He almost didn't believe it.
Brian Barton was adopted as an infant by Maureen and J.B. Barton. Together with his brothers Stephen and Adam, Brian had a carefree childhood in Vista, California, just outside San Diego.
He was very, outgoing, liked to talk to people, and he was very happy, He just thought life was good and he had a good time.
But in 2001, when Brian was 21, he decided he needed a change. He and his best friend, John Krebs, packed up and moved north to Seattle, Washington, to test their skills in the city's vibrant music scene.
A lot of music comes out of Seattle, so we figured it would be a good place to start and try something and see what happened.
The phrase I always remember is he said, "That's where the music scene is, Dad."
Brian was ready to move and get on and see what life held for him, so I was okay with it. Yes, my husband and I said, okay, fine, just keep in touch.
Over the next 4 years, Brian built a name for himself in the local punk rock scene and a serious relationship with his girlfriend, Brianna Duvall.
Brian and I were always friends, I'd say a good gosh, 4 years before we even started dating. So we really didn't have a courtship before we started dating. We just really jumped into it, fell in love really fast, and it was exciting.
The couple quickly decides to move in together. Their new townhouse apartment is in Federal Way, a suburb of Seattle.
In the beginning, when they were all super in love, they would always be in Brian's room, like just avoiding the outside world, just locked in there.
Brian seemed to be in love with Brianna. He called me a couple of weeks before and he said, "Mom, all I want is the wife, the kids, the house, the white picket fence."
He proposed 6 months into the relationship, you know, and that was it.
Everything in Brian's life seems to be on track. But by early 2005, Brian's relationship with Brianna, now his fiancée, begins to falter.
Brian and Brianna's relationship was interesting. Definitely had their good times, but there was definitely times where he would be kind of concerned. He was always wondering if she was flirting with the other guys, stuff like that.
According to his bandmates, Brian's relationship problems start to create some tension in the band.
Brian would come to practice upset about this or that, or some argument that they had, and he would stop practice to go talk on the phone and settle whatever problem was going on at the time.
He really liked her, you know, but she was kind of like young party girl, you know what I mean? Like, you know, not ready to be tied down.
In early March, just 1 week before Brian goes missing, his relationship with Brianna seems to reach its tipping point. Brian's band is playing a show at a bar in nearby Tacoma, and at one point in the night, Brian sees Brianna talking to another guy.
We played the show, and there's like one of her like guy, you know, like this guy that she was friends with, you know, but probably a little too friendly for his comfort level.
Brian immediately approaches Brianna and the friend.
Came up to him and kind of got in his face, and I was kind of like trying to get in between two, like, because I was suspecting Brian to throw a blow at him.
Basically caught her trying to hang out with some other guy, so those two were just getting volatile.
Over the next few days, the argument seems to affect Brian deeply.
After that show, Brian started acting strange.
I mean, it was like his personality changed. I mean, and I think his friends were even aware of that.
He just kind of started moping around a little bit more. He just wasn't as happy as he was. It seemed like he needed a change.
Brian seems to be struggling, trying to make a decision about his relationship with Brianna.
The day after the show at the Shipwreck, he came to our house and he was talking to me and my roommates about how he wanted to break up with Brianna. He seemed pretty upset, and we just kind of tried to talk to him and just make him comfortable and happy. And that's really only what our concern was at that time.
On Tuesday, March 8th, the conflict with Brianna comes to a head.
I was at work and he called me, and it sounded to me like he had had a long discussion with his friends, and he came to the conclusion that we just weren't right together. And we had just moved into that townhome, and I thought that we were on a different part of our relationship, and so it was pretty shocking.
To Brian's bandmates, however, the decision seems like a wise one.
I was relieved because Brian was relieved. That stress, that burden was off his shoulders, and you could tell that he was lighter because of it. And so I thought it was all said and done.
But in reality, Brian is already questioning his decision about Brianna.
He's like, yeah, I got rid of this girl, but like, I miss her, you know what I mean?
The next evening, on March 9th, Brianna stays home, hoping to patch things up with Brian.
I was beside myself. I was sitting drinking alone, hoping that he would show up and we can discuss it.
When Brian gets home, he and Brianna have a long talk, and they decide to give it another try. A few hours later, Brian calls Dylan, the bass player of his band, and makes a shocking announcement.
He called me and talked to me. You know, he said he wanted to quit the band, you know, and I was like, why? You know, he's trying to say, well, I just don't like the music, but then like the day before, he's just saying it was the best band he was ever in.
Dylan is angry that Brian quit the band, but Brianna is simply confused. According to her, the band was a positive part of Brian's life.
It was bizarre to me because he had just bought all this equipment, and they were talking about going to California and going on some tour, and it was a really cool opportunity, you know? So it was confusing.
To the band, however, it seems clear what has happened.
You know, he chose her over the band.
It was totally over, and then all of a sudden they were back, you know, totally teamed up and against the world.
Later that night, Brian still appears agitated. And then, with Brianna next to him, he makes a strange phone call to his best friend, John Krebs. Brian puts the call on speakerphone so Brianna can hear.
When Brian called us that day, he sounded very neurotic. He was not himself. It sounded like he was trying to get us to say something bad about her so she could hear it come out of our mouths, and he would have a reason not to be friends with us.
Brianna is further confused by Brian's strange and erratic behavior.
I mean, it was almost like a setup. It was really bizarre because he's loyal to his friends. He almost wanted me to hear that it's because of them that we broke up, or I don't know. It was bizarre.
Just hours after quitting his band, Brian now tells his friends that he has come to another decision, that he essentially wants to break all ties with them.
He didn't want to hang out with us or see us or, you know, have anything to do with us anymore. And the phone got passed around the room for a couple hours with everyone just trying to calm him down.
His friends think that between the pressures of his band and his relationship, he might be on the verge of a breakdown.
Like, everything is just adding up, and it's just like Brian holding the world, you know what I mean? It's just getting too heavy for him.
By the end of the night, Brian seems emotionally drained.
I think he felt alone. He was quiet. He stayed to himself. He slept on the couch and I slept upstairs.
But Brian and Brianna have one last conversation before they go to sleep.
I mean, he was crying and just beside himself, but it was something about, I don't think the world understands how much evil is out there, but how many good people still exist.
The next morning, Brianna feels hopeful that Brian's agitation may be subsiding.
So the morning of March 10th, I came downstairs and I saw that he had already gone to work, and I felt good about that. And I was off to work myself.
At Brianna's suggestion, Brian makes an appointment to see a counselor at 4 p.m. that day to talk about his anxieties.
So I was at work, and I called him. He was still at work, and he expressed to me that he was nervous about his counseling appointment, and I said, you know, well, that's natural, and I'm proud of you for, you know, making this move in your life. I think it's going to be really positive. He thanked me for always being there for him, and I said, of course, I love you, you know, and that was it. He didn't say goodbye.
Brianna doesn't know it, but this is the last time she will speak to Brian Barton before he disappears. Coming up, Brianna remembers an ominous conversation she had with Brian just a week earlier about a guardian angel.
But she came to him and asked him to join the battle of good and evil. And I asked him, how would that happen? And he said I would have to die.
Brian Barton's band, called As Fate Would Have It, was about to play the biggest show of their career. Brian should have been savoring the moment, but instead, he unexpectedly quits the band. Now, he's gone to see a counselor at his fiancée Brianna's urging.
I think he struggled with more things than we're aware of, and he just didn't show that vulnerability to anybody.
At 5 p.m., right as his appointment is scheduled to end, Brianna calls Brian to see how things went. But he does not pick up.
I called, and his phone just went to voicemail.
Immediately concerned, Brianna leaves work early and heads home.
And I saw his truck was there, and I was like, oh good, he is home, you know. He is home.
But when Brianna goes inside the apartment, Brian is nowhere to be found.
And so I'm calling people, you know, I'm not highly concerned at this point until like an hour or two has passed. And that's when I was like, okay, well, his truck's out there. And I went and I opened up the truck, and that's where I saw his keys and his cell phone shut off. It was as if he was sitting in his truck and just sat it down.
Growing increasingly distressed, Brianna searches the rest of the apartment for any other sign of Brian.
But then I went upstairs and saw his clothes there, and those were his regular work clothes, and his wallet was in there.
When Brianna checks Brian's wallet, she is shocked by what she finds. Over $800 in cash.
This isn't normal for him. He doesn't leave his money behind. He doesn't leave his life behind like this. Something's going on.
Meanwhile, Brian's band is busy rehearsing for the big show a week later.
And like we were just jamming, trying to figure out like how we're gonna do this without Brian. Was Rusty gonna try to play guitar, or was I gonna play guitar?
The band is also trying to reach Brian.
We're gonna call him and like just try to talk him into doing the show. You know what I mean? Like, yo, come on, let's just put our differences aside. You know, we need to play this show.
But their calls, like Brianna's, go straight to Brian's voicemail.
We couldn't get a hold of him, and that was when Brianna called freaking out because she was all, you know, Brian's stuff is all here, he's not here, I don't know where he is, can't get a hold of him, he's gone. So me and Ryan took off and went up to Federal Way and went looking for him. We got some flashlights, went, you know, walked around the trails, drove around, you know. There's a lot of little trails in the woods that are out there.
Back at the apartment, Brianna makes another disturbing discovery.
After I saw the wallet, I then was on a rant to see, okay, is everything really here, you know? He wore glasses and then contacts, and so the contacts weren't missing, but he was struggling with sleep as I was, so we had a bottle of Tylenol PM, and that was missing.
Brianna suddenly realizes what the missing bottle could mean.
When I saw the missing bottle, I thought he had set out to kill himself.
She then remembers a disturbing conversation she had with Brian the week before.
We were laying in bed one night, and he just told me that his angel came to him. And I asked him, I was like, oh, that's a weird dream. And he said, no, she came to me. And I said, okay, that scared me. She was very real to him. But she came to him and asked him to join the battle of good and evil. And I asked him, how would that happen? And he said, I would have to die.
Brianna has not spoken to Brian since before his 4 o'clock counseling appointment. And now she fears he may have taken his own life. She calls her mother in a panic.
She didn't understand. I mean, it was confusing. She said, I think you need to call the police. And the police initially, they didn't want to file it as a missing persons, and that wasn't even what I was wanting. You know, it's like, I just need someone to be aware that something's going on.
And while Brianna talks to the police, Dylan and Ryan continue to comb the woods. But they don't find Brian.
So we did that for the whole night, and then we went back to their apartment and stayed there for a night.
The next morning, there is still no sign of Brian, so Brianna calls Brian's parents to break the news. Brian's father, JB, gets the message from Brianna on their answering machine.
I didn't know what to do. I called my wife and told her, and I said, we need to go ahead and find out what's going on.
JB also calls the Federal Way Police to follow up on Brianna's original report.
And they essentially said, you know, he can go missing if he wants. He's allowed to do that.
Police tell the Bartons that they will look into the case and that all they can do for now is hope that Brian turns up. But back in Federal Way, Washington, Brian's friends are coming to their own conclusions. Rusty, the singer of the band, gets an unexpected call from Ryan, the other guitar player, who lived with Brian and Brianna.
And he's like, well, I've been out here all night looking for him, and can't find him, and he left all of his stuff here. I think he's dead.
Rusty immediately questions Ryan's assumption.
My first thought is like, why would you automatically assume he was dead? You could have just gotten angry and, you know, spent the night at a motel or just slept under a rock or something.
Brianna, too, is hoping that Brian has simply walked away. She can even imagine what he might be thinking.
It's like, okay, I'm just gonna get up and go. You know, maybe this life that I started to form here isn't what I wanted, and I'm just gonna create a new one.
But as the weekend passes by with no word from Brian, it's harder and harder to believe there is a reasonable explanation for his disappearance.
We did pretty much everything we could that weekend to try to find him. I realized something was wrong when Sunday rolled around and I still hadn't heard anything.
Coming up, with no sign of Brian, his friends grow suspicious of each other.
I started to think that whatever happened that night, maybe some of my band members were involved in it, and that really freaked me out.
"25-year-old Brian Barton has left behind all of his belongings and gone missing. Just before he disappeared, Brian had become extremely upset, breaking up with his fiancée Brianna and quitting his band. And now his friends and family are left to wonder, did he take off or did he take his own life?
He had definitely come to his boiling point with his life. Something had to give.
Brian has been missing for 4 days. Police support officer Dateline NBC is the first investigator to screen the case, and right away, she takes note of the length of time Brian had been missing before Brianna reported it to police.
Normally, a person would be missing for 8, 10, 12, 24 hours. Then someone would report them missing, especially an adult.
But in this case, Brianna reported Brian missing after just a few hours. This unusual aspect of the report catches Officer Deo's attention.
A flag went off in my head, and I thought, something's wrong here. It just didn't seem to add up to me. It didn't seem like it was as straightforward as it could have been.
Her first move is to contact Brianna, who fills her in on the details of Brian's disappearance.
In Brian Barton's case, there were some really unique circumstances that appeared right off the bat. He left all of his possessions behind. He had cashed his paycheck, his wallet was full of money. Everything that he had was left at the apartment.
Officer Deo also calls the counselor Brian saw the day he disappeared.
And she said that when Brian came in, he was depressed, little he was sad, he was upset. His relationship with this girlfriend was off and on. And he brought up to her that, you know, because he was adopted, maybe that's why he has trouble with relationships.
But before Brian leaves the office, he apparently makes an ominous declaration to the counselor.
Now I know what I have to do. That was the last thing he said to her. Now I know what I have to do. And he left. And who knows what that means?
But as Officer Deo knows, it could simply mean walking away from his problems. According to friends, Brian often talked about leaving his life behind and becoming a drifter.
He talked more and more about, like taking off and getting rid of it, of all of his problems.
His favorite saying was, when time got hard, I'm just gonna go to Mexico and grow bananas, And he was a resourceful guy, and I wouldn't put it past him.
I have to admit, there was, in my mind, I thought, well, maybe he isn't, missing forever. Maybe he has just wandered off.
And it wasn't just the pressures of the band and his relationship with Brianna that have been weighing on Brian. Even before the visit to the counselor, Brian had been bringing up the fact that he was adopted and that one day he would try to meet his biological mother, who lived in Florida.
He was toying with the idea of, hey, if I decide to contact my birth mother, would you go to Miami with me? And I said, of course, And that was just a month before, and battling kind of the confusion beyond not wanting to hurt his adopted family, but wanting to know who he was.
Officer Deo must consider the possibility that Brian left everything behind to seek out his birth mother. But the idea that Brian just walked away seems far-fetched to some of his friends and family.
Would he leave? Would he do that to his family? Would he do that to his friends? Would he not contact anybody?
He needed people. He liked the people. I don't see how he could just drop everything. I don't think he could do that.
And when Maureen checks with the National Adoption Registry, it appears that Brian has not contacted his biological mother, which seems to rule out that theory. The other possibility, given Brian's strange behavior and the missing bottle of Tylenol PM, is that Brian took his own life. But according to Rusty, the singer of the band, Brian had expressed strong feelings against suicide.
Brian was a firm believer that if you commit suicide, you go to hell and rot in hellfire.
Brian's brother Adam also believes suicide is unlikely.
You don't take your life if you have something else out there. He had his family, he had his friends down here. He had a lot.
And when Officer Deo talks to Poison Control, she discovers that the amount of Tylenol PM left in the bottle was not enough to kill Brian. With no physical evidence pointing to suicide or a voluntary disappearance, Officer Deo has little to go on. Brian Barton has now been missing for 10 days. His father, JB, and brother Adam have come to Seattle to help with the investigation. They begin by visiting Brian's apartment with Officer Deo. Immediately, Officer Deo senses that something is not right in the apartment.
The environment in that apartment, in Brian's apartment that day, you could feel the tension. You could feel the electricity in there, and the vibe or the feelings in there was just, something happened there.
Officer Deo begins scanning the room for clues.
Does it look like there's been a struggle? Is there anything, maybe anything on the wall, a mark on the wall, maybe blood, maybe a hole in the wall, anything that would just, indicate anything that might have gone wrong?
And then she notices something strange about the screen door, which is sitting off its tracks on the back porch.
The aluminum frame was bent probably about a 30-degree angle.
Suddenly, Officer Deo's investigation takes a turn.
When I saw the screen door in that condition, in Brian's apartment, I thought a struggle had ensued. Something had occurred in that apartment.
Coming up, band members find themselves at the center of the investigation into Brian's disappearance.
Went from Brian being missing to now like I'm a suspect for murder. It was very intense.
Get more Disappeared online at investigationdiscovery.com. Brian Barton's friends and family have been searching for him across the Seattle area for 10 days, but they haven't found a single sign of his whereabouts. Now, Officer Darlene Deo is visiting his apartment, and she thinks she may have stumbled on a major clue that might point to possible foul play.
And I noticed the screen door was bent and off. It was sitting on the patio. And I asked the young people in the room, the band members, hey, what happened to the door?
But according to Officer Deo, they can't offer a good answer.
I don't know. I said, well, you guys live here. You don't know what happened to the door? I don't know. It was just like that, you know, when we got home.
To Officer Deo, Brianna's and the bandmates' behavior is evasive and highly suspicious.
They didn't look at me directly. When they did, they couldn't hold that look for very long. It seemed that they were looking at someone sideways or behind me. At that time, I didn't know who that person was.
The person turns out to be Dylan Lorum, Brian's friend and the bass player of the band.
Now, he was rather nice to me for the most part, but he was sort of like, when you looked at other people around him, it's sort of like he commanded an era of, you know, intimidation.
I felt that the band members, each individual I was speaking to, including Brianna, were checking with this guy. The warning flags were up and they were flying high, and I knew something had happened.
Officer Deo is convinced that the bandmates are hiding something.
I believe that all of Brian's friends and band members collaborated their stories in an effort to ward off law enforcement, ward off any detection, because those band members, some of them, maybe all of them, know exactly what happened to Brian. They just don't want to tell us about it.
But at this point, the police still don't have much to go on. The broken screen door alone is not sufficient evidence to name anybody a suspect. And Brian's family is beginning to lose hope that he is still alive.
I think for a long time I thought he would just come home. But then as things went on, I'm like, that, you know, he wouldn't do this. Something has happened to him.
One month has now passed since Brian went missing, and there are no new leads on the case. But then, one of the band members begins to grow suspicious.
I started to think that whatever happened that night, maybe some of my band members were involved in it. And that really freaked me out.
Rusty's suspicions force him to make a painful decision.
And that's why I quit the band.
According to Rusty, the other 3 band members become angry that he quit, which leads Dylan to post an ominous picture on a friend's MySpace page.
A picture that he had taken to glorify himself or send a message or whatever.
The picture is of Dylan, also known as Tank, holding a shotgun pointed directly at the camera. Dylan also makes a separate post that reads, "Rusty is ending my band. Ending him is my payback."
I started being afraid of my safety once I got the picture of Tank with the shotgun and all the threats. And that's when I contacted the detective.
Rusty takes the picture of Dylan to the Federal Way Police Department to show Officer Deo.
I mean, you could tell this kid was scared. And I asked him why he would be scared. And he said, well, I left the band, and Dylan's mad. And I thought right away, Brian left the band. Was Dylan mad then? What happened?
But according to Dylan, the picture was just a harmless prank.
I mean, if I had really done something to Brian, would I just go and post up a picture like that the next day? It's absurd to me.
Still, Dylan's MySpace post only increases Officer Deo's suspicions.
Someone in that band knows what happened, and they don't want to share it. They don't want us to know. They don't want to suffer the consequences. But boy, Brian sure did, didn't he?
But without any physical evidence, Officer Deo's hunches lead nowhere. In May, the missing person case of Brian Barton is finally assigned to a detective at the Federal Way Police Department. But before Officer Deo turns over the reins, she gets a strange call from one of the band members.
I believe it was Ryan. Said he was moving out, and everyone boogied out of the apartment.
And as Ryan explains, he isn't the only band member with an itch to leave town. Apparently, Dylan has already moved to Los Angeles, just 2 months after his friend went missing. But according to Dylan, there's nothing suspicious about his move.
I went to LA because I had an offer from a friend to do some recordings. It was no secret I was going to LA. You know, I let everybody know. I told everybody, I told all the friends, you know what I mean? But it was not like, you know, I'm trying to escape from anything. It was, you know.
In fact, Dylan says he tried to call the Federal Way Police numerous times.
If somebody would have said, hey, Dylan, we need to question you, I would have been all like, okay, let's go. I wanted that, to be honest with you, because I wanted to, you know, give my side of the story.
But according to Dylan, no one at the police department will talk to him, and the accusations are starting to take their toll.
I started being very alienated, and, you know, like a lot of people I thought were my friends, you know, turned out not to be my friends. Went from Brian being missing to now, like, I'm a suspect for murder. It was very intense.
The detectives in charge of Brian's case are finally ready to ramp up the investigation, and they begin by bringing in potential suspects for questioning.
In this case, we really didn't have a suspect. We had more persons of interest. Brianna and Ryan and Dylan, everyone seemed to point us in the direction of those three as knowing who or what may have happened to Brian.
It was Dylan who had argued with Brian about quitting the band and posted threatening messages to Rusty. And even though Ryan and Brianna lived in the apartment with Brian, they were unable to tell Officer Deo how the screen door was damaged.
The first active step that I took is I went out and contacted his girlfriend, Brianna Duvall, and asked her if she'd come down the station and do an interview.
Brianna is unprepared for the visit.
Came to my house and knocked on the door, and I was kind of in my pajamas and get yourself together, you're going to the police station right now. It was 5 in the morning, they came and dragged me out of bed.
Detective Laird takes Brianna into a room at the police department headquarters, recording her interview on a hidden camera.
I told him what I told him, and I felt like it was okay, you know. But little did I know, I was like one of the suspects, you know? I mean, and with no reason.
Brianna tells police again about the events leading up to March 10th.
2 days before Brian was missing, he broke up with me, quit the band, and then the day before he was missing, called his friends.
Detectives also interview Brian's friends and other bandmates, except for Dylan, who is still in LA.
My impression of Brianna, Ryan, and Dylan was that they all were kind of pointing fingers at each other as to what could have possibly happened to Brian. If something foul play had taken place, They felt that either Brianna had done it or Dylan and Ryan had probably done it.
In fact, some of Brian's other friends seemed to point fingers at Dylan as well, if only because of his size.
When the police were interviewing us, one of the questions was if anyone could have killed Brian, who could it have been?
Would you feel that there was anybody in your group of people that was capable of doing that?
And I think the majority of the people said Dylan, based on the fact that he was a big guy.
Detectives take their next step, thoroughly searching Brian, Brianna, and Ryan's apartment.
So they contacted the manager at the apartment complex, and they went to the apartment and checked it out.
Detectives hope it's not too late to find some relevant shred of evidence. Coming up, detectives come upon a shocking new clue.
There was some kind of body that had been buried in that area.
The Federal Way Police believe that two of Brian's bandmates, Ryan and Dylan, and Brian's fiancée, Brianna, may know more than they are saying about Brian's disappearance. And now that Ryan has vacated Brian's old apartment, detectives are able to inspect the property for any signs of foul play without a warrant.
When I went to the apartment, we started looking around, just looking for any kind of fresh paint or anything that would show some kind of struggle.
If there was violence, if something happened in the apartment, can we find anything that can connect that? Can we connect the dots in any way?
But the apartment isn't the only place detectives are looking for clues. With more and more suspicion focusing on Dylan and Ryan, police decide to search Dylan's grandmother's property. It's where the band used to practice and where Dylan and Ryan claim to have been on the night of Brian's disappearance.
When I was at the apartment at the same time, Detective Wells and several other detectives were at Dylan's grandma's house just outside of Bellevue.
Detectives bring cadaver dogs to the property, and they're looking for one thing: the body of Brian Barton.
They had dogs, and they were going to search the property, and he would get back to me. I was like panicked.
Dylan can hardly believe what's happening.
I was guilty until proven innocent, you know what I mean? Like, everybody had thought that I had done it.
But then, a cadaver dog zeroes in on a patch of ground in the backyard.
The cadaver dog had hit on a site that had been disturbed and recently dug up.
And when a cadaver dog hones in on a specific spot, it usually means one thing.
There was some kind of body that had been buried in that area.
Meanwhile, back at the apartment on Southwest Campus Drive, Detective Laird makes another discovery: a large stain in the carpet.
My initial thought on the stain is that it was possibly blood.
Detective Laird and his partner conduct a quick field test.
And the initial field test did come back positive for blood.
But Detective Laird still needs the Washington State Crime Lab to verify the findings with a more extensive test. If these findings come back positive, they could be the linchpin of the investigation.
I thought, you know, this was gonna be something that would tell us if there was some kind of foul play and give us some evidence to start understanding maybe what had happened to Brian.
Detectives now wonder, did bandmates Dylan and Ryan possibly murder Brian Barton in the apartment and bury his body on the property of Dylan's grandmother in Bellevue? Or was there an altercation that resulted in an accidental death, which Dylan, Ryan, and Brianna are now covering up? For Brian's family, the answer could bring even greater despair.
I mean, it's like your worst nightmare. You know, you kind of like try to think about it, and then you're like, okay, no, I'm just gonna wait till I hear from them.
The news also increases the suspicions of Brian's friends.
At first, I didn't think Dylan had anything to do with it, but the fact that the police were involved and had gone to his grandma's house where they practiced with cadaver dogs, it just made me wonder.
The Washington State Mobile Crime Lab tests the carpet, the pad, and the concrete floor of the living room in the apartment. And all 3 tests come up negative. There is no trace of human blood in the stains.
At that time, it was very frustrating because we weren't able to find any more evidence of any kind of struggle in the apartment.
Meanwhile, police find out that the patch of disturbed earth does contain a body, but not that of Brian Barton.
A family dog died, and we had buried it in the back. And obviously the cadaver dogs had found or smelled the dog out.
The next day, Maureen follows up with police.
I said, what'd you find? And he goes, oh no, it was a dog. I was like, okay, that's good, but then I still have no answers.
With no more leads to follow, the search for Brian Barton, whether he's dead or alive, goes cold. Two years go by, and still no one has heard from Brian.
We don't know what happened. We just know we have our son missing, and it's just a tough life.
I want to think that Brian just walked away. I want to think that he disappeared just to get away from everything, start over, jumping trains. He might be on the East Coast, Midwest, who knows. I want to think that.
And then, in June of 2007, the Federal Way Police make a renewed attempt at finding the truth. They request voluntary polygraph tests from Dylan, Ryan, and Brianna.
I was like, yeah, no worries, you know? Anytime they would have asked me to come in, I would have came in and talked to them.
According to official police documents, all 3 pass the polygraph tests, and their names are cleared.
At this time, Dylan Lorne's no longer a person of interest. Either is Brianna Duval or Ryan Bruce.
To this day, the mystery of Brian Barton's disappearance remains unsolved.
There's no real evidence as to foul play or to him hurting himself or to him just leaving.
And although police have no new leads and no concrete evidence, Officer Darlene Deo maintains her suspicions.
I believe Brian Barton was killed. Whether it was accidental in a fit of rage or whether it was planned and intentional, I don't know.
As for Brian's loved ones, they are left to seek whatever resolution they can find.
I think we've all been trying to come up with our own forms of closure, and it's hard at this point because there's still no evidence of him anywhere. I mean, it's as if he vanished.
Brian was a really big part of my life. He's missed out on a lot of good things. I'm married now. I'm having a kid. She'd come home. Come be Uncle Brian. Teach him how to play guitar, you know?
Able to go somewhere and say, we love you. I wouldn't want this for anybody. I don't want it for him either. But we need an end.
series of personal tragedies, 23-year-old Leah Roberts is questioning the deeper meaning of life.
Leah wanted to see the world and spread her wings.
But no one expects Leah to leave the way she does.
She didn't tell anyone that she was going somewhere.
Then, a cryptic note and a money trail hint at where Leah the adventure seeker has gone.
I could see that she was headed west on I-40.
I thought that was just her course.
It's a soul-searching journey that comes to an unexpected halt, almost 3,000 miles away.
There's no sign of Leah. You know, where could she have gone?
That car has something to tell us.
It's March 2000. 23-year-old Leah Roberts sits at her usual table, writing in her journal and trying to figure out life's next move.
She used to hang out at this coffee shop, Cup of Joe. I think she would have loved to write the next great American novel. For her, it was a way to get things down on paper and probably good for her soul.
Leah was very philosophical. I guess some people would call her an old soul. You know, she seemed like somebody who was really wise beyond her years.
Just a few credits away from earning a degree in Spanish and anthropology from North Carolina State University, Leah has decided there is more to life than graduating college.
She kind of resented it and disagreed with the fact that you should get a degree to move on with life.
She was interested in, that life adventure, figuring out why we're here, what we're doing.
But even with her free spirit, Leah's older siblings feel quitting school months before graduation is a rash decision.
I remember talking to her one time and saying, just tough this out for 6 months. And, she didn't like being told that.
It's Thursday morning. Leah Roberts gets a routine call from her older sister in Durham to see how she's doing.
It was kind of the same sort of conversations about what she was going to do with her life, but nothing to indicate that I wasn't going to talk to her the next day.
With just 2 years between them, the sisters are close and talk often. But even with their solid relationship, Kara has no idea what is about to transpire.
We didn't make plans. I think it's just one of those things. I'll talk to you when I talk to you next. There was no reason to be concerned.
But close friends have been noticing changes in Leah's personality and have concerns of their own.
She would go out places by herself and she would meet people while she was out, which, isn't that big of a deal. But then to be doing it constantly and then really not having any contact with your friends, I was definitely worried about that.
She would go to the coffee shop all day and she would work on her computer and she would, make new friends, people that got her thinking outside of Raleigh, and Durham.
It's hard for Leah's core group of friends to see the outgoing girl they grew up with pulling away from them, especially knowing how difficult the previous several years have been for Leah and her family. When Leah was just 17 years old and a senior in high school, her safe and carefree life in the suburbs of Durham was interrupted. Her father was diagnosed with a life-threatening respiratory disease. While dealing with one seriously ill parent, the Roberts siblings had no idea that another storm was brewing.
We always kind of focused on my dad, but my mom was not doing so well all along, and it wasn't quite as obvious.
Leah was just 20 years old, a sophomore in college, when her mother died suddenly from heart disease.
It's kind of the first realization of your own mortality So to experience that at Leah's age, I think would be even more, of a shake to the foundation of your life and your beliefs.
She wrote about feeling like she had been born again, born into this new life without a mom.
After taking some time off from school, Leah returned to NC State the following semester in the fall of 1998. It was then that Leah suffered yet another life-changing event.
A transfer truck turned in front of her, and she had no choice but to run straight into it.
The near-fatal accident left Leah with a punctured lung and shattered femur, requiring doctors to place a metal rod inside her leg.
She talked about feeling like she was going to die immediately before the crash.
But given a second chance, Leah decided she was going to live life to the fullest.
Leah was somebody who wanted to see the world and spread her wings.
She studied a semester abroad in Spain and then enlisted for a field study program in Costa Rica. Then, just 3 weeks before she was scheduled to leave, in the spring of 1999, Leah's father passed away.
Leah's faced with, do I stick around here for the summer or do I continue with my plans and go to Costa Rica? So a month or so after Dad passed away, she headed down to Costa Rica.
I went to visit with her just to have a vacation. I was worried about her during our time in Costa Rica because she did not seem to be affected at all by her father's death.
Instead of mourning for her father, Leah decided to make the most of her experience in Costa Rica. Her time there seemed to have a big impact on her changing worldviews.
I do think that she rejected the idea that she had to live her life the same way that everybody around her was living theirs.
Now, 8 months after her trip to Costa Rica, it is clear that Leah Roberts wants to break free from her past. She's been taking guitar lessons, dabbling in photography, and spending hours documenting life in her journals.
She was buying a lot of music, buying a lot of books. It was almost like she was searching for something.
After talking to her sister earlier that morning, Leah confirms a plan to babysit with her roommate the next day.
We had made plans on that Friday to go babysit. Friday came and she never showed up. I thought maybe she forgot or maybe something came up and she just wasn't able to do it.
When Nicole returns home and Leah is not there, she doesn't think much of it.
We sometimes didn't see each other for a day or two. I would get up for work and she would still be in bed, or she'd be in bed when I got home from work, so it didn't seem unusual to me.
But after 2 days pass and still no sign of Leah or her car, Nicole starts receiving phone calls that are cause for concern.
She had missed people and had made all these different plans.
But she never made it to any of the plans that she have started. So then we were really worried.
Coming up, Leah's sister finds a cryptic note in Leah's bedroom.
It was just out there.
After surviving the deaths of her parents and a near-fatal car crash, 23-year-old Leah Roberts is searching for answers. When she pulls away from her core group of friends and quits college, those closest to her become concerned about her emotional state. Then, after a phone call with her sister and making babysitting plans with her roommate, she disappears.
Leah's His roommate, Nicole, called me that Sunday around noon and, asked me if I had seen Leah.
During the next 24 hours, Leah's sister Kara and Leah's friends call everyone they know in a fruitless attempt to find out where Leah has gone. On Monday morning, the young women meet at Nicole and Leah's house to strategize their next move. Nobody has seen either Leah or her car since Thursday.
She was driving a white Jeep Cherokee, had a good number of miles on it.
When Kara showed up, I think she was very worried to begin with. She walked directly in the door and went directly into Leah's room.
Judging by the state of Leah's room and the things that are missing, it is clear to Kara Leah has left voluntarily.
It didn't give me concern that someone had done something to her. I could just tell that she had packed up and taken certain things.
Although they agree Leah left on her own accord, knowing her emotional state, Kara and Leah's friends alert the police. If Leah did leave voluntarily without telling anyone, the girls are concerned she might not be thinking clearly.
We went down to the Raleigh Police Department downtown and filed the missing persons report. There wasn't a lot they could do because we had nowhere for them to even start.
We were all pretty worried and concerned about her. We're also just angry that if she did leave on purpose, that she didn't tell anyone.
On Tuesday, the day after the report is filed, Kara returns to Leah's house to see if perhaps she overlooked something that would give her some indication of where her sister has gone. What she finds heightens the mystery.
I was able to locate the note that she had left for her roommate, Nicole. It was a folded piece of paper with a picture of, like, the smile of the Cheshire Cat. So that was a little creepy.
Leah was known to be a big fan of the popular children's book, Alice in Wonderland. For Kara, the Cheshire Cat's smile is not likely an insignificant doodle.
I kind of wondered if it wasn't the cat that always disappears and reappears out of nowhere. I feel like it might have meant to her, here's my grin, it's here, it's gone, and it'll be back.
Inside the folded up letter, Kara also finds a stack of cash. The note from her younger sister begins by explaining the money is for bills.
It was to cover expenses for about a month, so I felt like she'd be back in a couple of weeks, at the most.
But as Kara reads on, the note becomes less clear.
Someone described it as cryptic, and I would say that was a good description. It was just out there.
Kara and Leah's friends wonder what was going on in Leah's head as she wrote her note. Then, Kara reads a side note written on the left-hand margin of the letter, referencing the 50s Beat Generation author Jack Kerouac and his legendary book, On the Road. The message speaks volumes to Kara.
Leah had talked to me about Jack Kerouac. I think she kind of romanticized about that sort of lifestyle. Here he is in the 50s, traveling across the country with hardly any cash, and he described this beautiful country, and I feel like she was maybe itching to get out on the road and do some soul searching.
The note seemed very happy. I mean, she seemed very happy about what she was doing.
Nicole recalls a conversation she had with Leah several weeks earlier.
Leah had mentioned to me, just in conversation, hey, let's just take a trip across the country. Let's just get in the car and go out to California. It sounded great, but I was working, I didn't have the money, I couldn't just jump in the car spontaneously and go.
But Leah could. She had no job, no responsibilities, and she was no longer in college. She had inherited some money from her parents, which would have given her the financial means to up and leave. For Leah's brother Heath, Leah's goodbye note and departure make perfect sense.
It just made it sound like she wanted to go follow in Kerouac's footsteps, and she might be gone for a little while, but that she was going to be back.
Although they are concerned, apparently Leah does not want anyone to lose sleep over her decision to leave.
I think she just needed to get away from her life to figure out a plan and to just kind of soul search.
In the note, she tells her sister not to worry and that she is far from depressed.
I think that made me feel a little bit better, finding the note. I still need to know where she was because I kind of looked after her always.
The looming question is, where did Leah go? And why hasn't she tried to contact anyone? Kara is determined to find out the answer. And luckily, she has a starting point.
Kara had been given power of attorney when Leah went to Costa Rica because she was going out of the country. And so Kara was able to tap into her credit cards and ATM cards.
I was able to get her bank records that afternoon, and I could see that she was headed west on I-40.
That's when we finally got a hint that she was going across the country.
Coming up, Leah's lark turns into her sister's worst nightmare when a disturbing note is delivered to Kara's door.
I don't know why her car would have been found there.
After finding a goodbye note addressed to her roommate, family and friends of Leah Roberts are trying to understand her decision to leave home for an adventure on the road. They want to believe she is safe, but they can't be sure. When her sister Kara obtains Leah's bank statement, she is able to follow a money trail, mapping out Leah's plan, a road trip across the country that began just after the last time they spoke on Thursday, March 9th.
I talked to her the day she left. There was no reason to think I wasn't going to talk to her again. She left that evening, I think around 6 o'clock. Went to the bank that afternoon, withdrew $3,000 cash, and hit the road.
Leah is able to traverse the country in less than 4 days. According to her bank statement, she checks into a hotel near Memphis, Tennessee on March 10th, and then only uses her debit card for gas until the last posted transaction on March 13th in Brooks, Oregon. At first, Kara has no idea why her sister is headed to the Pacific Northwest.
It didn't make sense at the time, and I didn't think there was any specific reason for her to go there. But it seems like she had a very deliberate path.
But on March 13th, the money trail stops. Kara knows Leah made it to Oregon, but now there is nothing left for her to do but wait.
I kind of felt like I would hear from Leah. At least I was hoping I would, and just kind of feeling like we can't do anything. She's an adult.
Meanwhile, Leah's friends are still baffled by her abrupt departure. They too want answers.
I just knew that something was really wrong with the situation, and I just felt this horrible, just scared, really scared that something bad was getting ready to occur.
Nicole and Susie hit the pavement, seeking out Leah's new acquaintances to see what they know.
During that time was when we started hearing from people about the whole Jack Kerouac connection.
And then they finally come across a woman from the coffee shop whom Leah has confided in.
We talked a lot about Jack Kerouac because we had both read Dharma Bums, and in the book, he had gone over to Washington State in the mountains and had thought a lot about what was important to him. It kind of resonated with her. She wanted to go over there and just be alone and figure everything out because she'd been going through a tough time.
According to Janine, Leah was not sad or depressed about her life, but was indeed yearning for answers.
I totally knew that she was going to take off and go to the mountains because she wanted to go where Jack Kerouac had gone, and she wanted to be on the road and be a free spirit and go and figure herself out.
After 9 days without any word from Leah, Kara can't hold out much longer. It's Kara's 26th birthday, and she fully expects to hear from her sister. But instead of a phone call, she receives an ominous message from Bellingham, Washington.
When I got home on the morning of my birthday and found a note from the local sheriff's department, I found out that Leah's car was found in Bellingham. I had never heard of the area, and just trying to make sense of why her car would have been found there.
Just 1 day earlier, in a remote area of wilderness nearly 3,000 miles from North Carolina, a local man and his wife were taking an early Saturday morning run up a mountain road in a majestic pine forest.
As he's walking down that road, he noticed some clothes in the trees, and as he looked down the ravine, he saw a vehicle. He went down the ravine and found a passport and ID, called 911 to report a vehicle in the ditch.
A white Jeep Cherokee with North Carolina plates was found wrecked and abandoned off an old logging pass called Canyon Creek Road in the Mount Baker National Forest, about 30 miles east of Bellingham, Washington. A deputy from the Whatcom County Sheriff's Department responded to the scene.
When he got to that vehicle, the deputy thought it was suspicious in the sense that there was a vehicle down the embankment, clothes everywhere, but it could be real common in this county. We get these a lot. People end up drinking, they'll crash their vehicle, go down, they'll report it later on. It was treated like a crash vehicle, but it was unique because it was out of North Carolina.
The Jeep was left with blankets and pillows covering the blown-out windows. Personal items like a checkbook, a guitar, music CDs, and bags of clothing are strewn across the area. But the one obvious thing missing from the scene is the driver. It doesn't take investigators long to figure out the car belongs to a woman named Leah Roberts from North Carolina. They call the Raleigh police, who are able to link the wrecked vehicle to the missing persons report filed 5 days earlier.
At that time, it went from just, a vehicle down the ravine to a missing persons case.
A police officer is sent to Kara Roberts' home with a note to call a sheriff's department in Washington State. Kara is sickened when she gets the news about the car.
The worst thing that was supposed to happen to me was that my mom passed away unexpectedly, but now we're looking for our little sister. There's no sign of her other than the car, and it's in a place thousands and thousands of miles away.
When Kara called me to tell me that they'd found the car, I remember just breaking down and crying because I knew something really bad had happened.
Kara and Heath Roberts decide to take a trip out west to help locate their baby sister. Meanwhile, police in Whatcom County investigate the site where they believe there has been an accident.
It looked like the vehicle went somewhere between 30 to 40 miles per hour. It was going uphill.
Investigators are able to determine the speed judging from the damage done to the trees as the Jeep tumbled over the embankment.
It sheared off some trees that were 3 to 4 inches around, and then it looked like it tossed. It went end over end and then side to side. Everything in the vehicle was being tossed out of the vehicle. So if someone was in it, it would have been severely injured, or if they're tossed out, you'd expect them to have been somewhere near the vehicle.
Yet the investigator sees no sign that Leah was injured either inside or outside the Jeep.
It didn't present itself as anyone in the vehicle. And a lot of times you look at the windshield and see if there's head damage or something like that, or damage to the steering wheel, and he didn't see any of that. And you would have thought there would have been trails of some kind of blood. We just didn't see it.
Four days after Leah's Jeep was found, Kara and Heath Roberts arrive in Bellingham, tracing their sister's last known whereabouts. When they witness the beauty of Bellingham, they understand why their sister was drawn here.
The city of Bellingham was very nice. You know, it's a little small town, very quaint looking, but it didn't take very long to get outside of town into an area that I would describe it as wilderness. But it looked like an area where, you know, if you don't know how to survive, you might not.
Police bring Heath and Kara to the accident site shortly after their arrival. Seeing Leah's last whereabouts leaves an indelible mark.
It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and her trail ended there. Her car was here. There's no sign of Leah. You know, where could she have gone?
Coming up, Kara and Heath uncover a critical lead in the search for their sister.
Somebody there had to have some kind of knowledge of what had happened to her.
Get more Disappeared online at investigationdiscovery.com. Nine days after 23-year-old Leah Roberts left her home in Raleigh, North Carolina, it appears as if her cross-country adventure has come to a crashing halt. Police find her wrecked car in a national forest in Washington state, but no signs of Leah. The accident scene leaves Leah's family and investigators mystified.
The seatbelt wasn't strained. There was no mark on the windshield where they would have hit their head. No blood. But yet, these blankets were covering the windows. It made me wonder, you know, did she hit her head and wander off, or wander down to the road and hitchhike out? The condition of the car didn't provide any answers. It almost made it more of a mystery.
We didn't find any tracks or any marks that somebody who was trying to leave a trail, you know, might have left. And of course, we didn't find Leah.
If Leah sustained injuries from the crash, it appears she hasn't asked anyone for help. There are no records of any area hospitals treating an injured or disoriented woman since March 13th, the day that activity on Leah's credit card stops. Seeing the car leaves Leah's brother with two very contradictory scenarios of what might have happened to his free-spirited little sister.
Either Leah had had an accident in the car and had wandered off and was intentionally staying out of contact with people, or that something bad had happened to her, some sort of foul play.
What could have happened to Leah? Police and family believe the answers lie somewhere in that vehicle.
That car has something to tell us, because we don't have a crime scene. We don't have a body.
All they know is that Leah paid for gas in Oregon on March 13th, and then her car was found here on this mountain 5 days later. What happened in between and after is anybody's guess. Then, they find a crucial clue. As investigators begin to sift through Leah's belongings, they come across a box.
They found it like in like a little memory box. It was like someone wanted to keep a piece of memorabilia. That's why that was interesting.
Inside the box is a movie ticket stub for the critically acclaimed film American Beauty. The ticket is from a movie theater at Bellis Fair Mall in Bellingham, 30 miles away, and is dated for the afternoon of March 13th. Now investigators have a new piece of the timeline leading up to Leah's disappearance.
We do know she had a gas receipt from Oregon, 12:50 in the morning of Monday, so she drove from Brookings, Oregon to Bellingham, which is a 5-6 hour drive.
The ticket would put Leah in the city for at least several hours until the 2:10 p.m. showing of the movie at the mall. Heath and Kara are hopeful that someone in Bellingham remembers seeing Leah.
It didn't seem possible that she could have come through Bellingham and not interacted with at least some of the local populace. And so somebody there had to have some kind of knowledge of what had happened to her when she was in town.
With the detectives' help, the Roberts siblings generate a missing persons flyer to circulate around Bellingham. They start at the cinema at Bellis Fair Mall.
They didn't remember Leah at the movie theater, so we decided to start asking around in the food court, and I immediately noticed a type of restaurant I thought Leah would go to.
There's only one sit-down restaurant in the mall. Kara believes if Leah had a meal, it would have been here. As it turns out, she's right.
They remembered her sitting at the bar. There were a couple of other patrons on either side of her, but she was alone.
This is promising news for Kara and Heath.
It gave us another piece of Leah being in Bellingham.
Having this new lead gives them hope that the investigation into their sister's disappearance will continue as they head back east to Durham.
Heath and I spent 4 days up in Washington, finding out what was going on, meeting with media, passing out flyers. And at a certain point, what do? We came on home.
The next day, one of the restaurant patrons that was seen talking to Leah phones in a tip.
The man described her as a very warm, talkative individual, willing to share about her life a little bit.
The caller wants police to know there was another individual sitting on the other side of Leah, whom she was also talking with. The second individual is contacted by police.
I remember having lunch with her and having a conversation with her. He gave us a description of her, and with that she talked about Jack Kerouac. They talked about him and about why she came out.
Then, the second man gives police another intriguing clue. According to him, Leah did not leave the restaurant alone that day.
This second individual gave us a description of this individual. He called Barry, who Leah left with.
His description of Barry is so detailed, police bring in a sketch artist. The image rendered now portrays a possible suspect in Leah's disappearance. But police are concerned. The story the second individual gives does not mesh with the account given by the first man, the one who called in the tip.
He never talked about her leaving with somebody else. He said she left alone, and then this other individual said she left with somebody else.
Since police cannot verify the second individual's testimony, they begin to suspect the story of Barry, the man in the sketch, is a ruse. But at this early stage of the investigation, they are not ready to rule anything out. Leah's car has been towed to a secure facility, and both Whatcom County detectives and the FBI have begun to process the car, looking for any additional evidence that might indicate foul play.
The vehicle was impounded and then taken to evidence storage. There, a couple of crime scene deputies started processing all the clothes. They went through all that stuff again.
It's been 12 days since Leah's Jeep was found off Canyon Creek Road, and 3 weeks since Leah went missing. Now, police stumble upon evidence that more strongly suggests something very bad has happened to Leah Roberts.
She had, I believe, somewhere around $2,500 with her that she left with. We found a pair of pants in the vehicle with $2,400 inside the pocket.
It appears as though Leah has spent little money since the 13th of March, the day she was seen leaving the restaurant.
If she was going to live in Bellingham for 4 or 5 days, she had to live somewhere, and it doesn't look like she used a lot since Monday.
And then, under a floorboard in the Jeep, they find Leah's most sacred possession.
We also found a ring, and it was her mother's ring. The question is why she would have taken it off. In fact, one of her friends said she would have never taken it off.
That was a very, very sacred item for her. And I don't care what kind of emotional state she was in, unless she had some kind of serious mental disorder or something, she would have never left that ring, never.
She took everything of value with her, and everything of value was still left in her car.
It is becoming increasingly clear that whatever Leah's intentions were for embarking on this road trip, something very sinister got in the way of her realizing her dream.
I think she was on a journey. She left the notes that everything's gonna be fine. She says, I think the journey stopped in Bellingham. We don't know why it stopped, what brought it to stop, but I don't think Leah brought it to stop.
Coming up, police find new evidence in Leah's wrecked car 7 years later.
No one's ever opened up the hood.
After finding a large sum of cash, along with her mother's engagement ring, inside Leah Roberts' abandoned and wrecked vehicle, police are concerned that she might have been intentionally harmed. The last person believed to have seen her alive in a Bellingham restaurant tells police she left with another man, but police question the witness's credibility. All they can do now is keep searching for Leah. They begin on Canyon Creek Road.
It was within 2 weeks of the crash that search and rescue team comes out.
Although hopes of finding Leah alive are fading, police call in a highly trained search team. They map out an area where an injured Leah could have gone had she escaped the wreckage.
Aerial was done, helicopters flown over, dogs are brought in. No stone is left unturned.
They search above the car and below, all the way down to the Nooksack River.
They weren't able to find anything else. No sign of Leah. Could they have missed her? Yeah, I mean, it happens, but they did search the area.
Now, police are fairly certain that Leah was not injured in that accident. In fact, they are now beginning to believe no one was actually in the car when it crashed. But for Leah's brother Heath, this doesn't prove that Leah was never there.
There was a lot of damage to the car, but it wasn't in terrible condition. It looked like it would have been a jarring accident, but not one that somebody shouldn't have walked away from.
Desperate for more clues, police call the gas station in Brooks, Oregon, where Leah last used her debit card for gas. They obtain surveillance footage from the time she should have been in the store. What they find is telling.
They were able to see Leah going into the store and paying for a transaction and leaving. And she was by herself. She's wearing a hat and it's sped up, but it's her.
A closer look at the video shows Leah peering out the door while she waits for the clerk to ring her up. Since there are no cameras outside the store, what she is looking at remains unknown. But the footage leaves investigators confident that Leah appeared to be fine just hours before she arrived in Bellingham.
This shows her alive and well on her journey up to Mount Baker.
Evidence from the car further leads investigators to believe this was a solo trip across the country.
She came out with a guitar, camera, lots of CDs, all her clothes, writing stuff. We didn't see anything that looked like she was traveling with somebody else.
Did Leah, as the second man in the Bellingham restaurant says, really meet up with a man named Barry just 13 hours later?
We don't believe she had any friends out here. We don't believe she drove out here with anybody but herself. She was at the restaurant by herself. So this individual, Barry, we just can't verify it.
Police are stumped. Why would the man from the restaurant invent a suspect? Does he know more about Leah than he is letting on?
His behavior became very odd. We tried to figure out what role he had to play. Was it just sitting down and having lunch with her, or was there more?
According to police, he says he never saw Leah again after that Monday afternoon at the restaurant. But with no further evidence, Leah Roberts' case begins to go cold. Police from the Whatcom County Sheriff's Department ask her sister Kara what they should do with Leah's car.
You hear all the time about cases that are solved 10, 15 more years down the road by some new piece of evidence that they go back and find. So I was pretty adamant that I wanted them to keep the car.
The years go by, and Leah's 1993 Jeep Cherokee sits idly in a secure facility maintained by the Whatcom County Sheriff's Department. What was once a symbol of freedom for Leah is now a lonely reminder of shattered dreams. Could this wrecked shell still hold the missing piece of the puzzle? Almost 7 years have passed, and the case of the missing woman from North Carolina is still unsolved. The original detective on the case retires, passing on Leah's files to Detective Collins and his colleague, Detective Alan Smith.
This cold case really drew me in. So as I started reading the story about Leah, I really wanted to, with fresh eyes, look at it again.
We began re-examining the evidence. And when we were doing that, we discovered that there were parts of her vehicle that hadn't been fully examined.
I was sitting at my desk and I'm reading the report and said, what hasn't been done is no one's ever opened up the hood.
When the two detectives pry open the damaged hood, what they find provides a viable explanation for the most baffling factor in Leah's disappearance, that at the time of the crash, no one appears to have been in the car.
At the time the State Patrol examined the car, they said the seatbelt hadn't been stretched. There was no evidence of anybody in the car, no blood in the vehicle.
But the car had to have been accelerating at significant speed to go over the embankment. 7 years later, investigators find a shocking explanation.
It appeared as though the Jeep had been tampered with, and that it would have taken somebody with a knowledge of a mechanic in order to do that level of tampering with the vehicle. We found that the cover on the starter relay had been removed, which made it possible for somebody to turn the key on, push the starter relay, and have the vehicle accelerate on its own.
Investigators finally have a technical explanation for how the car could have been started from the outside and accelerated without a driver. With this new information, police are drawn back to their initial possible suspect, the second man from the restaurant, who is believed to be the last person to see Leah alive.
He has experience as a mechanic and experience from the military, so we believe that he would fit the description of a viable suspect.
Police decide to process the car one more time. What they find is the break they've been waiting for.
On the inner underside of the hood, we found a series of fingerprints that weren't documented during the original investigation.
With this new evidence, police track down their possible suspect, who is now living in Canada. They contact Canadian authorities and request that they fingerprint him and get a sample of his DNA. Meanwhile, investigators decide to re-examine all of Leah's belongings. They hope to find DNA evidence that could have been overlooked before, which might match him or someone else.
There is a whole bunch of clothing that's being reprocessed for DNA. The articles that were most likely to provide a DNA sample were submitted to the FBI's lab.
There is a chance that after 7 years, advances in technology will now be able to identify traces of DNA that were previously undetectable.
We believe there's DNA that would link someone to Leah's disappearance, and we're going to look for that match.
But detectives are in for a long and difficult wait. It takes them over 2 years to obtain DNA and fingerprints from their possible suspect in Canada. And when they do, they find the fingerprints are not a match. In the spring of 2010, there is better news. A crime lab finally finds male DNA on an item left behind in Leah's car. Tests are now underway, and police are on the brink of finally finding out if it matches their possible suspect.
We've just recently received results that say that they do have classifiable DNA and that they can compare it against something, which is very timely considering we just got the DNA evidence from the suspect in Canada.
Hopefully we'll rule him out, or we'll rule him in. We don't know.
Through the years, while waiting for answers from the DNA evidence, Detective Collins and his team have done everything they can to keep Leah's case alive.
Just a year and a half ago, went and researched the area with cadaver dogs and metal detectors. The idea is maybe we can find something.
After all this time, the hope of finding Leah's remains in the area where her car crashed is unlikely. But detectives know there is a part of Leah that will literally never decompose. The metal rod placed in her leg following her car accident 13 years before.
That metal rod has a number to it, and it's ascribed to Leah. And that's not going anywhere. One day, we will find her final resting place.
As they have moved on in life, Heath and Kara Roberts are not willing to give up all traces of hope that one day they will see their little sister's infectious smile and once again feel the warmth of her generous spirit.
I think about her all the time. It's like someone died, even though we don't have any real proof that she did or didn't. I'd like to find out what happened to her, and I wish I could have her back.
I'm gonna hang on to her memories, and I'm not gonna mourn for Leah because we don't have a body. She's not been found dead or alive. I'm realistic, but I'm gonna hang on to that piece of hope until someone proves otherwise.